Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new here, thanks for joining us. I'm Andy and this is ElectricGeek. This week we're going to be looking at how you can best optimize your TV for picture quality, and I'm going to show you how to do that for free. So if that sounds good to you and you want to get the absolute best out of your movies, games and TV shows, then stick around, because shortly I'm going to be diving into the 3 main picture settings that I believe you have to get correct in order to get as close as possible to your perfect picture. Just a quick reminder that if you're not already subscribed, now would be an excellent time to hit that button and do so, just so that you don't miss out on my future content when I'll be dropping weekly videos on movies, games and tech. It only takes a few seconds to hit that button and I'd really appreciate it, because I really want to grow this channel and the community so we can all get talking about the stuff we love. So the reason I decided to make today's video is because I'm super passionate about picture quality. The reason being is because I believe it's the best way to, or one of the best tools you can use to make sure you're fully immersed in whatever you're watching. What I'm going to do today is try and give you the framework to get as close as possible to the creator's intent, because for me that is what I'm always trying to get to with a TV. When it comes to games or movies, I want to view that exactly the way the filmmaker, director, whoever it may be, cinematographer, wanted me to see that, without the TV settings, processing whatever getting in the way. This is definitely a video that's quite generic and it can be applied to most modern TVs. And it doesn't matter whether it's a HD TV you've got, a 4K TV or a 4K HDR. These are kind of base level, basic settings that you can set at the grassroots, which will set you up for good quality picture throughout. However, I'd just like to get an important disclaimer out here, and that is I'm not going to force, or I'm not trying to force my picture settings onto you, because it's a totally personal thing. What I think might look absolutely fantastic, you might think is terrible, dull, boring and uninteresting, because at the end of the day, everybody's got their own personal preferences, and you might have spent a lot of money on your TV, so don't feel you have to stick to these settings if you just don't like it, but I'm hoping that's common sense. Step 1. Image or picture preset. That is where you should be starting when it comes to picture quality. It's the template for everything else. There's 2 that you want to avoid, and that is dynamic and vivid, and that's across any TV brand. They have different names and stuff, but that's probably what they'll be called, dynamic or vivid. So I hear you asking, well, what should I be in? Well, I'm about to tell you. What you ideally want to be in is something like movie, cinema or custom, ideally. The reason you want to be in these is because brightness won't be blaringly high. All the colour will be set to a more reference level. It'll probably be the most accurate colour setting, colour preset you'll have on your TV if you're in custom or movie. And it'll have a warmer tone altogether. The colour temperature will be warmer, which is how most stuff is colour graded to be watched when it comes to film and TV shows, unlike what's on vivid and dynamic. Not really what you're looking for at all. The reason for that is that these are deliberately set up to make the TV seem very eye-catching in a TV showroom, so that when you go into Curry's and you're trying to pick your TV, it's really bright compared to whatever competitor it's sitting against. You're looking at like 50 TVs there, and each brand, Sony, Samsung, Panasonic, whatever it may be, LG, they want you to pick their TV. So they pump it onto vivid or dynamic, which is usually massively oversaturated, quite difficult to watch when you actually get it home, totally unnecessarily bright, and they've usually got all the processing put on there, which I'll come to later on, but it just all adds to a very unnatural image that will burn your eyes out once you get it home. Yeah, so vivid is nasty. Vivid and dynamic is nasty. I'm going to fire a wee filter on just now, a vivid filter, to give you an idea. All of a sudden, you'll notice that my face has got a bit blown out. The colours are oversaturated, over bright, and the detail in my face is probably missing a little bit. It's been washed out basically because it's trying to make me look as exciting as possible, and God knows I need as much help as I can get with that. However, for the purpose of demonstration, you get my point. And unfortunately they come in that by default usually. So when you get it home, if you're not in any way savvy about picture settings, you might unknowingly leave it on that, and you're robbing yourself of what your TV is actually capable of with regards to getting something that's reference or getting across the creator's intent. So to recap, get it off of vivid and dynamic and get it onto custom or movie or cinema, one of these presets. That's what you're ideally looking for. Right, so now you've at least got the right template for success. You're either in movie, cinema or custom mode, and all the presets that come along with that. Step 2, next most important thing I would suggest is brightness. Now the reason I think brightness is really important is that because most people probably have LED TVs, which at best maybe have some kind of local dimming technology. Now, brightness is basically just the backlight behind the TV illuminating the picture. And you can usually set that a value from 0 to 50, 50 being the brightest and 0 being almost off. And the issue with this is that if it's set too high, especially in a dark room, the light will bleed through the darker parts of the image. So for example, the black letterbox bars that you get at the top and bottom of a movie, usually, or any dark scenes, will look that milky, grey, washed out way. And what happens when the blacks get washed out is the whole image gets washed out, and then you lose that depth, the pop, the contrast, and it doesn't matter what your contrast is set to because the whole image is washed out. So to give an example of what I mean about backlight bleed, or blooming as it's called, I'll stick a wee test pattern on the screen right now that I got off of YouTube, and it shows you the little white box moving across the screen there, and you can see the cloud of white basically fall on it. If you have an LED TV, this is what you'll experience. Obviously, the more money you've spent on your TV, the better technology, the better processing, the better they are at locally dimming, and it won't be as exaggerated. So it won't look as bad as that in real life, but it's just to give you an idea of what that is and why it's important to eradicate that. So when you're setting your brightness, basically what I'd suggest you do is find an image that has some darkness in it, whether it's just the black letterbox bars or it's a dark scene in a movie. If you've got Sky TV on broadcast or a Blu-ray player or whatever, just get an image that you're familiar with and has some good contrast, some good lights with darks, and set it all the way up to 50. You'll notice the image becomes flat and washed out like I talked about before. Then what you want to do is go back away from that, back down towards 0. Now if you go all the way to 0, it'll just become this black muddy mess that you can't make out anything in. Obviously you're not going to go down to that, but you're going to go incrementally down, down, down until you hit that nice sweet spot where the blacks are as inky black as they can get, but you've still got a bit of brightness and it's got a bit of pop, and just that sweet spot where you've got that little bit of depth of field and the image looks as contrasty as you can possibly get, but without sacrificing the blacks. Especially if you're watching it at night. It doesn't need to be high if you're watching it at night. If the whole room's dark, that can be down super low. You know, if it's at 50, it can be down to nearly 10. That's usually what mine sits about 10 or 15 on my Sony when I'm watching it at night. And prolong the life of your telly because you're not maxing out every single day needlessly. So that's you got your image preset correct. Hopefully you've got your brightness dialed in. Now we're going to talk about the final step: motion smoothing and picture processing. Now, I've been talking to you for a long time, so probably the best way to explain the pitfalls of motion smoothness is just to hand over to none other than Tom Cruise and the director of Mission Impossible Fallout, Christopher McQuarrie, who will introduce you to what soap opera effect and motion smoothing is all about.
To that end, we'd like a moment of your time to talk to you about video interpolation.
Video interpolation, or motion smoothing, is a digital effect on most high-definition televisions and is intended to reduce motion blur in sporting events and other high-definition programming.
The unfortunate side effect is that it makes most movies look like they were shot on high-speed video rather than film. Now, this is sometimes referred to as the soap opera effect.
Without a side-by-side comparison, many people can't quite put their finger on why the movie they're watching looks strange.
Most HD TVs come with this feature already on by default, and turning it off requires navigating a set of menus with interpolation often referred to by another brand name.
If you own a modern high-definition television, there's a good chance you're not watching movies the way the filmmakers intended, and the ability to do so is not simple for you to access.
Filmmakers are working with manufacturers to change the way video interpolation is activated on your television, giving you easier access and greater choice over when to use this feature.
Meanwhile, a quick internet search should provide you with step-by-step instructions on how to quickly disable the feature so that you can enjoy the movie you're about to see exactly as the filmmakers intended.
On behalf of everyone who works so hard to bring you the very best motion picture experience, thank you very much for listening.
So that's you, Tom Cruise and a movie director tell you that soap opera effect and motion smoothing have it on in the TV is a bad thing, so just get it off. What you see on your screen now is actually a clip from Gemini Man, which is shown there on 4K and HDR on my OLED TV from Sky Q. That film was shot digitally and was filmed in 60 frames per second because the director, Ang Lee, wanted it to look that way. So hopefully the image that you're seeing just now is giving you an idea of how smooth that can look. So it's not necessarily the case that all films are in 24 frames per second, the majority are, but just to give you an idea of what that looks like, and it's a decent film, so if you want to check it out, it's definitely worth a watch. The final little piece in the puzzle of step 3 is advanced, if you like, or additional picture processing. Now this covers things like advanced contrast enhancer, digital noise reduction, vivid colour, all these kind of fancy things that are usually 3 or 4 words long and sound cool. It's the kind of stuff they just plaster all over the box, or all over it in stickers and curries, so that you think, oh, look at all these cool things it can do. The rule of thumb with these is that they're just robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? So whatever it is they're doing, giving you extra contrast, great. It is giving you extra contrast, but at the expense of something else, usually fine detail. It's making the white so white that you're losing the fine detail. It's making the black so black that you're losing all the shadow detail and the intricacies in the black. So you're never getting something for nothing when it comes to these newfangled picture enhancers. So by now you should have, I'm hoping, a pretty decent looking picture, and I hope it's a bit of an improvement on what you started with. It might look a bit warmer, it might even look a bit dimmer than what you're used to, and you might be thinking, this looks a bit boring, Andy, I don't know what you're on about here. But just stick with it, right? Geek for a week is what I'm asking you. Just geek for a week, stick with those settings, especially at night time, watch a couple of things at night, and then in a week's time come back to the comments, hit it up and tell me what you think. And I'll be surprised if you're not converted, because I think you will see a lot more in it, you'll get a lot more enjoyment, you'll see the nuances, and I think after a while, once you kind of retrain your eyes away from whatever ghastly picture setting you might have been on, you'll see the benefits. A wee bonus tip I'll say is, if you want to dive into it further, there is quite a cheap wee tool you can use to go through all the finer things. So, and I was talking about earlier, like colour settings, contrast, all that. If you really want to fine tune that and take it even further and get it really as close to what you perceive to be perfect, then a good tool for that is one of these enhancement Blu-rays, DVDs. This one I got from Curry's about 5 years ago now. I think I paid about 15 quid for it, and I went into CEX the other day and I seen it was sitting for like 90 pence. So you could nip into CEX in here and grab this now for 90 pence, and basically you just stick it in. I think there's a digital version as well if you don't have a Blu-ray player, but stick the Blu-ray in and it'll take you through all these different test patterns, and it will guide you through it. It'll basically tell you what to do, but ultimately you fine tune it to what your eye likes, and that's the beauty of it. So that's pretty much it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to give it a wee like. I hope you've taken something from it. I hope it's given you a good insight into how to go about setting your picture up for how to go about setting your TV up for the best possible picture so you can get more out of your movies, TVs and games. Later this week, I'm looking forward to picking up my copy of Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut for PS5. Really looking to get stuck into that new DLC, and I'm planning a review on that game in the near future. I've also got some more 4K Blu-ray, a steelbook, and I'm really excited about a collector's edition coming out next month. So I've got plenty of unboxings and film reviews to do, and I'll get back onto the requested reviews. Remember, you can follow me on Instagram where you can keep up to date with what happens behind the scenes and not miss out on any of my new content. So folks, thanks for watching. It's been a blast. I'm Andy, Electric Geek. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.